Part of what I wanted to say I couldn't deliver, I didn't know anyway. Such a bittersweet taste, such a perfect waste, all hiding in the back of my conscious state.
So tell me, boy, what did you see in the barn?
Nothing, madame.
What did you see in the barn?
I'm a Jew. Do you know what the Germans do to the Jews? I thought we were safe.
Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and welcome to the Fan Carpet.
After reading the script and reading the book, the story really enticed me, and it was a really good story that I wanted to be a part of. And I'm Jewish, so I resonate with the role, so I was just really excited to be a part of it. Yeah.
It feels wonderful. I mean, it's a story I wrote some 30 years ago. You never expected to get onto any kind of a screen, so it's a joy, and it's been a joy making it too.
One of the first things that attracted me to the story was when you first read it. I couldn't help notice just how relevant a lot of the issues are. The story might be set 80 years in the past, but with the movement of people risking their lives to, fleeing conflict zones and persecution, crossing borders, you can't help but draw parallels with events taking place today.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the script, I broke down in tears several times. It's an incredibly powerful script. It affected me in many personal ways. It touched on elements with my own family, with my father, for example. It was, it's a real pleasure. And look, I mean, I try and do the best sort of projects I can do. There's a lot of films going on at the minute, and it's difficult to sift through ones and pick out ones that are, it's important to bring them to the world,
No, absolutely. It's not only is it a very important story to tell, it's also a story by my favourite childhood author. It's a story which I fell in love with when I was 11, and always felt a great responsibility to do it justice, because he's the man who inspired me to read. He was the man who, without him, I wouldn't be here today. I probably wouldn't have ever picked up books. And if I didn't do the story, if I told a story which was not loyal to him, or I didn't do it his justice in his eyes, it would have broken my heart.
In a sense, the story revolves around me and my search for my daughter, Anya. The film starts with a very difficult situation where my character has to make a very difficult decision with his daughter. And the whole film is basically about me setting up a child refugee network for children in the hope that one of them will be my daughter, in the hope that we'll be reunited once more.
Personally, the role that I played here was a bit challenging because I had a very few weeks to lose drastically a lot of weight. So I lost about, close to 40 pounds. So I was just sucking on ice for weeks and weeks and weeks. That just made me, I thought I was prepared. But then I arrived into this village where actually all of those things happened. And you met people and families and their ancestors. So I had that sense of responsibility to do the job well. And I think we did something really nice here.
I play the teacher of the town, and I feel like, it's a very incredible story by an incredible writer, and the fact that originally my part was a man and they turned it into a woman, and the fact that it's someone that actually existed, that it was like, a story of like solidarity and courage, and I think I really kind of like took a lot of learned a lot of lessons from working with such incredible actors around me. And yeah, it's a very moving story. Well, I think when you're a teacher in that time, especially for young children, you have a responsibility. What was interesting about her was to try and hold it together, because some of them have kind of like broken families, Meanwhile, her husband has also gone to war and she's broken herself. So it's kind of like trying to be brave, but also letting the vulnerability kind of come through as well.
Oh yeah, of course. I think it's very important to never forget to do such a film. It's so important. Every actor, every human being should be part of such a beautiful story. And I was touched by the story of this young boy and touched by this. It's a small story in the big story, so it's really rare to read such a beautiful script.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely important to be a part of this project and get people aware about, like, obviously all that that's happened, and I feel like it really resonates with, like, what's going on today with like immigrants moving across borders, which is kind of what happens in the movie. So yeah,
The world should feel a sense of responsibility, just because there was an Holocaust, but there's a lot of them happening all the time. So it's because of some of those movies sometimes that people get they get reminded. I'd say it's very specific, this film, just because it touches more like a generation that should not be aware of too much of what happened. So when you can do a movie like the young adolescent watch the film, of course, because of Noah and all the pull that he has, I think it would be lovely to have a lot of the youth watching this film and understanding what happened back in the days.
Yeah, it is. You could say it's a responsibility to deal about it, because this whole story is based on true events, of course. And not that I knew General Weizmann per se, that is more fabricated. But everything around the French people was happened for real, and it was extraordinary to go there because it was shot on location, to go to Leicester and to meet these people who had experienced this, and it was very enriching. And of course you want to try to give that on as best as you can.
Well, I think it's not a story you can take lightly, especially, as I said, because it's a story that actually happened. And I think when you see that many extras dressed as Nazis, it's the closest I can ever get to what it must have felt like, even though it will be impossible for me to imagine the gravity of what it must have felt like. But it felt very real, especially when you have to be in character and suddenly you have like this setup and everybody dressed in that sense with the tension that you have to kind of go through. So you have a responsibility, but it's quite, in a terrifying way, very helpful that you're put in that setup, you know?
More so than some may be aware, but my heritage is German. So to then play a Jew ready to be put on a labour camp train, you have to face a lot of personal questions, a lot of personal, you take on a certain degree of responsibility, certainly. And there's nothing more harrowing than going to the town where we shot, seeing the real place, seeing your character's name on a war memorial, and then meeting the people who lived through it. You know, that it really hits home what a difficult, terrible time it was and how important this story is.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. When tackling something, like the Holocaust, you're at the serious end of filmmaking. I think more so for us in the sense that we made, a creative choice to go and shoot this movie in the village and the valley that the book is set, the story set. So when we arrived in Leicester and the Valley d'Aspe, we were struck and very acutely aware that the last time these villages saw, men in Nazi uniforms, the uniforms were real. The guns they were carrying were armed, and they were there to perform a pretty horrific duty. We actually held a meeting, like an open invitation meeting for anyone in the area to come down and ask questions about the how we were approaching the filming. Literally how we were going to effectively disrupt their lives. And as I arrived at the meeting, I was pulled aside by the mayor of the village, who told me that relatives of people executed by the Germans during the occupation were in the room, and it really, it hit home just how sensitive this subject matter was going to be. And from that moment on, it was a real point of ours to really try and make a film that was as considerate as possible, but also a film that the people of that region could be proud of.
There's always a sense of responsibility if you're talking about history, It's important not to corrupt it. You can use it as inspiration, but the spirit of it must be right. And I'm conscious of the fact that whenever you write about the Holocaust, which this is, you have a huge responsibility. You're dealing with the greatest crime that man ever committed against man and woman and child that the world has ever known. It lives with us right to this very day. We have just marked another anniversary of the Holocaust. It's with us. And so when you're talking about it, writing about it, you had to be very clear that this thing happened. And I suppose feel it again if you possibly can, because the important thing about this story is about a young boy. And I wanted to tell a story through the eyes of a young boy, because the children today don't know about the Holocaust. A lot of them don't know. I was somewhere the other day and talking to children, and I said to them, have you ever heard of the Holocaust? And one of them said, who's he? Gives you some idea of why it's important for them to see this film. And Boy in Striped Pyjamas, these things which give them some idea that this stuff really happened. It's not just for books or films. That's how we tell the story. But the story at the back of it is the massacre of millions and millions of Jewish people and others, of course.
When we approached the casting process, we were always trying to be faithful to the novel, and obviously the novel is aimed at young adults, so we wanted to try and get an ensemble cast that really would appeal to a broad audience. We were lucky enough to be able to attach Angelica and Jean Reno, who are cinema heroes, and appeal to a wide audience. But we really were blessed to get Noah, an exciting young talent with a real massive following that we hope will open up the story to like a younger audience, an audience not particularly necessarily familiar with recent European history and a dark chapter of that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, it's always a dangerous game when you're trying to cast in your head, because invariably you never get who you want. I just have to. My job was to write the characters and tell the story as best I could, and I let those who are above my pay grade make those decisions. Obviously, you have a few people in your head, but in terms of you don't ever wed yourself to any ideas simply because it is always a dangerous game.
Yeah, it was amazing to get to work with all of them, Angelica, Huston, and Jean Reno, and all of them. They've taught me so much, and I learned a lot getting to be around them and work with them, and they're all great people, so I had a good time.
I was really pleased. He's adorable. Noah was a fantastic partner, and it was a great opportunity for me to do a film as well with Jean Reno and Angelica Huston, who I adore. No, it was a great experience, great casting, and the director is brilliant. So I felt lucky being part of this film.
Not necessarily. I think as an actor, I reach out for to experience things as varied as possible. And so it's very interesting to experience this kind of things, which is based on reality. It's also interesting to experience fiction or experience big budget films or small budget films. Everything has its own charm and its own interest. So this was definitely a very interesting universe to dig into.
Yeah, I love getting to try new things and do different roles, and it's really exciting for me to kind of dabble in different things and do different genres, for sure.
Like you said, like your first question, I think hopefully a lot of people will be reminded that sometimes it doesn't take violence, and sometimes it doesn't take anger and whatnot to fix things. Sometimes it takes smart effort, and you go around all of that things and you save people.
Much of it, I suppose, is to do with the kind of person I am. I like going to places and investigating and finding stuff out. And I ended up in this village by accident. Got to know a farming family up the road who gave us lunch, and it turned out this farmer had been a boy in the village at the time of the Second World War, when the village, this is in the Pyrenees, had been occupied by German soldiers who had come there deliberately to patrol the frontier to stop refugees, a lot of them Jewish children, from escaping into neutral Spain. So the villagers knew that. They kind of lived along with the German troops. No one seemed to know at the time that there was something going on under the noses of the Germans, which was an old lady in the village who was hiding away Jewish children and then arranging for them to be escorted by guides over into Spain. And she must have saved the lives of hundreds and hundreds of children. So I heard this story, and it appealed to me because I think those We live in a world now where there are lots of people on the move, lots of people looking for safety and a home. And of course the Jews were going through this terrible time, so it seemed to me to be important to write about it. So that's why I did.
Yeah, I mean, in next month I'll be starting filming for Stranger Things and kind of focusing on that now, so yeah.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for more content next time.
We've got to get the children across the border.
We can make it.
One day Anya will be one of those children. I'll never give up hope.
I'm here on the largest of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca. With the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful mountainous landscape, the thriving city of Palma, quaint little market towns, a growing number of luxury hotels, it's no surprise that the likes of Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor like to holiday here. So come and join me as I take you round Mallorca.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.